So, Ram, a warm, and huge welcome to you on Filme Shilmy. It's been a dhamaka over here, quite literally.
Thank
Um,
you.
Obviously, congratulations on Aarya getting nominated at the Emmys as well. I mean, I was very delighted to hear the news. But obviously, though it did not win, I mean, how encouraging is it for you? And has it kind of upped the game for you now, I guess, as a filmmaker?
Well, first of all, just to be there in that hall, I'm so happy we went. My co-producer Amita Madhvani was there. My EPs Ria and Sia were there. Of course, the Disney Plus Hotstar team was there, and so my family was there. It was in New York. My brother lives in New York, so it was a big thing because 24 languages, 600 shows were shortlisted. We were the top four out of that. Just being there was a life memory, which Brian Cox gave the lead actor of Succession, gave the main award. I would have loved to have received it from him, obviously. I love Succession.
Yeah.
But it's not a competition that we were in. I'm just happy that we were there and that we were acknowledged with all of this. So it was just a great, great big memory. And yesterday, my mentor, Shwantro Ghoshal from advertising, had come home with his mother, and I showed them the nomination certificate with the medal. And, it's a big moment for us.
Yes, definitely. And I think the fact that it got nominated itself is such a big deal. And I'm really
You
glad.
can't get bigger than this. Yeah, you can't get bigger than this.
No, definitely. I mean, Arya is a very special show, and I think you'll be hearing me fanboy over the show throughout this interview. So apologies in advance for that. But yes, it's a very special show. But I think it's quite wonderful when it comes to filmmaking. You've always been quite ahead of time in that sense. I mean, if I'm not wrong, I mean, I read up somewhere that I think your first film, Let's Talk, was apparently the first Indian feature to be shot in the digital form.
Yes. Yes,
And
I don't know whether it was the first one to get released, but it was certainly the first one that we shot digitally. It was shot on a very small camera, but two, three of them. A lot of my way of working and functioning actually, and my roots about what to do and how to make it in a documentary kind of way came from that film. Again, my mentor, Shwantro Ghoshal, was the DOP. We co-produced it with Amita and Shwantro and myself.
yeah.
It cost us... my son we were in a 1.5 bedroom house at that time, and his feet were growing out of the bed. But my wife said, it's okay, let's move to a 2-bedroom house later. So it did cost us 1 bedroom.
Oh, bless you. Wow. Yeah, kya karna padta hai na, like to make films work, man. It's just...
I swear it. But well worth it. We're very, very thrilled that we made Let's Talk, because it's taken us some time to get on the map. We've now got a little space there within the 2 square kilometers of where our world belongs, which is really in Bombay between Juhu and Andheri. Though we don't stay there, but at least we're within that world where we make our reputations. At least we've got ourselves a little corner.
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to say, actually, because you're very familiar with the 360-degree filming systems, which I think you did. I think you try to do in all your projects, right? That's something you aspire to do. So in what way does this technique help to bring out the realism and raw emotions of characters? Perhaps, especially if we can talk about this in reference to Aarya season 2.
So, let's imagine that you and I are, having an interview, and we are. But let's imagine we were actually shooting it, and so what would happen is that you would know your character through a workshop. I would know my character through a workshop. We would have a script. You do have a script right now, and I have a script because it's internalized, right? What you're meant to ask me, what I know from my life, and then I would not conduct this interview by doing your shot separately and my shot separately. Can you imagine if we were to do this interview with you having been shot separately and you are asking me questions, and then later on somebody turns the camera to me after you've left and you've gone to your van or to your home, and then you leave and then they shoot my shots? How are we ever going to get interaction? How are we ever going to get energy exchanged in any form? So what happens is that to get realism in acting, I decided to follow a system that allows the 2 actors and the 3 actors or the 100 actors, or in Neerja's case, 250 actors in the plane, to actually interact with each other. So I pre-light everything. I shoot with 3 cameras, 7 cameras, 10 cameras. And my camera is constantly trying to capture energy and feeling rather than trying to do it. I don't say action. I don't say cut. I don't give actors marks, but which they know their script, but I don't do rehearsals. All of this is really just to get to an informality and a spontaneity, which is what perhaps this interview has, which is that your stuff, I know my stuff, and now let's play.
Right.
So it allows for a documentary like truth.
Yes. That's very interesting, actually. And it does make sense. And it does, no wonder why it feels so visceral, I think, in all your works. I think in both your work, actually, Aarya and Dhamaka, you've adapted established international concepts, which have been obviously explored in various shows and films as well. So what factors do you bear in mind when you are customizing an international project to cater it for the Indian audiences?
So I think that the first thing that I try and figure out is, what do I want to say? A lot of the time, I'm not so into the plot. Obviously, I love the characters and the plot. That's why I want to make it. But more than anything else, what of me am I bringing into it? And I remember when in Aarya, because when I saw Penosa, which is the Dutch series about 10 years ago, is when Foxstar wanted me to make it as a movie. And for 2 years, I didn't know how to make it. Amita, my co-producer, and me, we loved it. But we didn't know what to make of it. And then I was with Amir Khan shooting Satyamev Jayate, the music video. And I was in a train. And then I saw outside the window some flowers. And I said, what are those flowers? I asked the TC. And he said, those are poppy fields. And I said, wow, that's opium. That's actually opium growing. And then that's when I understood what to do with the show and how to culturally root it. So first, I try and figure out, in culturally rooting it, do I know these people? I know these people. I know the background. I know the families. Not that I've ever, know it in a fictional way, obviously.
Yeah.
I also wanted to speak about, eventually the movie didn't work out. And in this case, the big question in my mind was, Anuj, would our audience accept that a daughter would put her father in jail? Spoiler alert of season 1, but most people have seen season 1. So that was my big concern. Will you root for a character who actually puts her father in jail? And then I said, yes, because as soon as we start talking about dharma and karma and duty and responsibility and the Gita, and then, are you going to be a mother? What role are you going to play? Are you going to play the role of a mother or the role of a daughter or the role of a wife? And when she decides to play her priority dharma, which is of a mother, as soon as I latched onto, therefore, that's what I'm saying over here, that I'm saying that this is really what the show is about, then it became okay for me to say to the audience that it's okay for a daughter to put her father in jail because she's actually behaving like a mother.
Yeah, but it's very interesting you say this. And I think what really touched me as well, and what I think inspires me a lot, is the fact that you reference Hindu mythology within your works. Yes. I think in Neerja, in 2 of the songs, you actually reference the Mahamrityunjay mantra. And then the Bhagavad Gita references. In fact, I listen to the Bhagavad Gita song as well, even now when I feel tense in life, and it really calms me down. So I just wanted to sort of...
I'll tell Vishal Khurana, who is the music director, I shall tell him this and he'll feel very happy to hear that.
Yes, please.
But I do, even in my advertising work, I do use Sanskrit, I do use philosophy. I do feel that the reverberations that we ourselves have for that is so huge, that when they say that a film is layered, what do they mean when they say a film is layered? Oh, your work is layered. I think it means that it reaches many layers of your body. It not just reaches your brain or your heart, it reaches your soul. And I think that's something which, therefore, when you use Sanskrit and philosophy, the reverberations of that, automatically, I think something happens to us.
It's true.
So, yeah. And even in Dhamaka, I've used it in the end song, right at the end, there is a, right, if you wait till the end of this, there are three shloks that come in. And this also comes from, obviously, both my father, who expired when I was very young, and my father-in-law, Amita's father. They're surrounded by, the books that were there at our house, because the Gita was one of those books that, my father-in-law said, always carry it with you. So
Oh, it's amazing. It's almost like the sort of sanskars and the sort of cultural upbringing that Arya gives to her daughters, to her kids,
yes,
sorry. It's almost like you kind of had that sort of that sort of upbringing too, in a sense as well, with the way you're describing it, because it's really wonderful to see that, and it's very rare we get to see that. Often people quite often appropriate these things, and it gets really sad when that happens. But it's good that we have amazing content like Arya and like your works
thank
that
you.
actually really honor our culture and our sort of
Yeah,
religion.
it's something which affects me. I think about it. I do get emotional about reading those works, and it's something that you try and lead your life by a lot of the time unsuccessfully, because of what it says, and but you try to, sort of, when you read it, and then you try and apply some of what you've read. But the one thing that I obviously, when I read it either in Hindi or in English, in various translations. I haven't yet been able to, sort of get down to learning Sanskrit myself.
Yeah, even I aspire to learn that actually one day. It'll be
Yeah.
wonderful to do that.
Yeah.
But I also think, Ram, what was also very fascinating to see is that you present intense, high-octane emotions from actors who we least expect from, or perhaps who haven't done so before in their works. I mean, be it Sonam in Nirja, Karthik in Dhamaka, Mrunal in Dhamaka as well, actually, and Sushmita in Aarya. Like, what helps you to bring out the sentiments of vulnerability and strength within them as actors?
Well, you see, what happens is that, first of all, I believe that they are very good actors. I do genuinely believe that all these people are very good actors, and otherwise they would not perform the way that they have. And I think that one of the things that I do tell them is, are you okay embracing the way that I work, which is the 360-degree system, long takes. I do a before and after act. I don't there will be live before action, after cut. I throw googlies at them. So sometimes there will be some coffee person who will come in and and this guy will say, where did this coffee come from? I don't want coffee right now, which is there in Dhamaka. So I throw life at them and I tell them this is the way I work. So once they embrace the way I work, I think that they get fascinated by the fact that I'm not putting what I call as the handcuffs of the industrial processes of filmmaking onto them. And I'm trying to see how they can be rather than show. And so a lot of this, Anuj, I must tell you, is that again, one of the people whose work I respect a lot is a British filmmaker called Mike Lee or Mike Leigh. And I've seen practically all his films. And obviously I'm nowhere near what he does or the kind of work that he does, but certainly having read a lot about the way that he works. So I've borrowed some of the sort of ways of working, never having reached his heights, but certainly is somebody who inspires me in the work that he does. So a lot of it comes from him. A lot of it also comes from the way Paul Greengrass works, which is on Captain Phillips. And, so a lot of the work that he does also approaches the work in a certain way, which is documentary meets theater meets cinema.
Yes. And I feel realism is something, even though, don't get me wrong, it's always great to watch an escapist piece of cinema in cinemas. It's great to watch a pot boiler. But
very much, I love them. Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
I love them. But they're stylized in their way. And that's what and once you know that that's the school that you have to be in, then that's what you have to do.
Yeah. And I was going to say, there seems to be this yearning for real stories now. And I think that is perhaps because of the fact that, we have been in lockdown and we have been binge watching a lot of documentaries and a lot of real life stories that have surfaced on the platforms as well. Would you agree with that as well, that shift in style of cinema emerging now?
I think also what has happened is that our ability for catharsis, because of all that is around us in terms of what we read in the news, what we're going through, we've blocked it out a bit. And so the only way that we can get catharsis is through cinema and through watching sometimes fiction, but done in a documentary-like way. And so you want to cry, but you are not crying because of, it's very hard what we're all going through. And we have to block everything that is happening to us. And so sometimes the best release is in fact watching movies or shows where you can now begin to cry or feel or get emotional about something that you had stopped yourself from doing in real life.
True. Yes, that is very true as well. But I think you deal with some emotionally challenging topics in all your ventures. I mean, as beautifully as they're shot and as beautiful as they are to watch, but they are very, very difficult to digest. I mean, you explore terrorism in Nirja and Dhamaka, and then you have gang violence in Aarya. I mean, I'm always on edge because of that vulnerability of that family, and because of Sushmita's character. We're always constantly on edge, making sure that nothing happens to the family. I mean, Aru gave me a massive scare in season 2. But
I'm so happy you're saying that, because that is a track that is very, very. I'm very fond of that track. It's an age that is a very vulnerable age, and it was a thing that had to be said. But also, when I'm doing the work, when I'm doing Nirja, it's not really about a hijack. It's about a mother and a daughter. And it's about how does a mother overcome the loss of a child. So my son is a music director, and if he comes home late from a gig, let's say at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, because he's been in a studio, I'm awake because I'm worried, is he? And so how do you deal with that? And that's what the Bhanot family dealt with. And if I look at Aarya, it's not a crime thriller. We keep telling ourselves, all our directors in season 2, I have Vinod Rawat and Kapil Sharma as my co-directors, and my writers, Sanyukta Sheikh Chawla and Anu Singh Chaudhary. We keep telling each other, this is a family show. This is not a crime show. And so that's the way that we can reach out, because even in Dhamaka, eventually it's a morality tale. And I'm so happy we just got a review in New York Times which said,
congratulations, I saw that. Yeah,
that was like huge for us, which is that they got it, that it's a morality tale. And it is, and I was reading on morality tale while I was writing it, and that's the words that I wanted somebody to say, and it happened, and then I realized that it's a morality tale about hustle culture, which is a culture that we are all, sort of, sometimes we have to do, but hopefully not do it in a bad way. And I think in Dhamaka, the character compromises his value systems while doing hustle culture. And obviously the words hustle culture themselves mean that it's negative.
Yes, that's very true. In fact, as a bit of an aside here, actually, I wanted to just point out that there was this one scene where, because you mentioned about the whole family-oriented sort of concepts that is above the main themes of your films, there's that one scene where I think Aarya is with Maya in season 2. They're drunk and they're just by the kitchen counter, and they're talking about what happened with Aru in season 2, which I won't spoil for the audiences because I'm sure not many, in case if people haven't seen it. But yes, the way Sushmita breaks up in that scene, I mean, wow. Like
that is, it's, your heart goes out to her. She is like really, and first when she tells Maya about the news, and I was speaking to Sushmita yesterday, and I said, the way that, it really stays with me, because when you tell Maya the bad news, but when you tell her the bad news, you pat her on the shoulder, you almost give her a hug, and what you should have been doing actually is breaking down like crazy while giving the bad news, but you're actually comforting Maya while giving her the bad news. And then after Maya receives it, and after she leaves, is when you break down. I think that, meaning that kind of, sort of Arya-ness, which she embodies, is very, very special. Again, I'm so happy that you mention that moment because it is genuinely one of my favorite moments when I'm watching the show. In a way, I think one tries to lead one's life subjectively, objectively, which is that you're watching yourself. And therefore, as a director and as somebody who's, sort of making work, I think it's one of the great boot camps of life to be choosing or having filmmaking having chosen me, because filmmaking allows me, even as a director and as a human being, to live subjectively, objectively, where I'm inside it while I'm observing myself while I'm outside my own life or outside my own work. So a lot of the time I do tell, if somebody criticizes some of the work, I say, yes, the director on that day, maybe he wasn't quite correct, or maybe the director wasn't quite, was not able to give you the intentions that he was meant to give you, rather than saying, it's me.
Yeah, that's
of course me, but it's the director and me. So I'm able to watch myself. And I think that is something which over time I'm trying to see how I can use that as a life kind of a way of living, which is how to be subjective, objective, or how to be so I'm constantly looking at words that are contradictory words, and I'm living in the middle of them, humbly arrogant, informally formal, spontaneously organized.
Yeah, but I was gonna say though, Ram, actually, it's two big questions in one, actually, really. So if you can answer them at your own pace and however you see fit. But because I mentioned to you, like a lot of your films talk about vulnerable people caught up in extreme circumstances which are beyond their control. I think in Dhamaka we can perhaps talk about Mrunal's character, because I think that really suits her character for that. And obviously Aarya, as we all know. So has there been a time where you've kind of been in that situation? And what helped you get out of it at that point?
Well, I think like all of us in any profession that we do, or in any life that we lead, we're always in vulnerable positions. I think that certainly as a filmmaker, you're putting yourself out every day. And not that I'm specialing out filmmaking, but just because I am a filmmaker, so I can talk about myself. I'm sure you as a journalist, and anybody who's watching the show, in whatever that they do, and especially today, the doctors and the nurses and what is happening on the front line on so many things. But as a filmmaker, I'm putting myself into positions of crisis. I have to get through the day. I have to make certain things work, time, money, responsibility, resources. And so you're constantly vulnerable. And then, of course, you're the line from Hamlet, Shakespeare, which says, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
Love that reference.
Yeah. So the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune come your way no matter what. And so what do you do when you are faced with that? Obviously, you do cry. There's no harm in crying. And sometimes you cry alone. And sometimes you cry with, in my case, with the people that I work with, or with my wife, Amita, or with my EPs, and a lot of my team who then see me going through that. And sometimes in the crying, it helps you get rid of some of the stuff that you're carrying. I think crying is a good thing. And apart from that, what else do you do to go through what you put yourself through and what life puts yourself through? Well, I do meditate every day. So I have a meditation teacher, I have an Ayurvedic doctor, and he helps very much 3 or 4 times a week for at least half an hour to 40 minutes. There's breathing exercises, there is meditation that I then go into, and that also helps me, sort of center myself through the chaos of our lives. So these are the things that I've begun to use: meditation and crying.
Spirituality helps, though. Honestly,
Yes, it does. It does. Yes, I think whatever works for you, I think some people like going for a walk, some people like gardening, some people like going to the temple, some people like meditating. Whatever works for you, please do that, because that's your or family or whatever it is, that's what you need, and find that like in we've lost hobbies, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost hobbies. Hobbies was a big thing. People used to collect stamps, and it's not about collecting stamps. It was never about collecting stamps. It was about your own ability to get out of something else and into something else, so you could get into the flow and distract yourself, because that hobby allowed you to get out of the work that you did. And I think that the loss of a hobby, I want to now start cultivating a hobby. I want to start, and my hobby is going to be singing.
Why not? It helps. It actually helps. You know what? It's really weird. Sometimes I actually have like conversations in my mind, and I end up thinking like I'm on Coffee with Karan. Like I'm like as if I'm the guest and like Karan is interviewing me. I actually have this. Honestly, you should really try this. It really helps. It makes you introspect on life and makes you realize how far you've come.
Well, right now I'm sort of chai with Anuj, so I'm doing good.
Amazing, and we're delighted to have you as well. But it's wonderful. But I think moving on from that internal conflict to the external conflict, Ram, because an artist, I think, regardless of which sector you're in, whether it's an actor, director, producer, anyone in this industry is often conflicted between commerciality and creativity as an artist. So do you feel a constant struggle of making content that is compelling but also bankable as well, given today's climate?
Yeah, well, it's not a conflict. First of all, I come from advertising, so I want to reach out to like 800 million people in our country, minimum. So I come there, I want to reach out. I'm in the business of feelings. I'm in the business of ras. My whole point of making work is so that you can, either when I want to make you laugh, cry, feel, that's the reason that I'm here. I want to make you feel that. So whatever that it takes for me to make you feel that in a non-manipulative way, that's very, very important. You shouldn't cry and say, at the end of it, you say, hey, I got manipulated into crying. So I think that, I don't want to press buttons in a way in which it's blatant. But my job is to reach out with a feeling. But having said that, also, I have been brought up on all kinds of cinema. So from Tarkovsky to Satyajit Ray to Shyam Benegal to Fellini to, Yash Chopra to all the gods of, sort of Indian cinema. And whether I've seen Yado Ki Barat 9 times, or whether I've seen Diwar, or, whether I've seen Sholay, and, all of these movies what I'd like to be is therefore an international Indian. And I think in many ways, we are all international Indians, because our reference points and our, exposures are so amazingly Indian and Western, or European and American and English, that we actually, by our very nature, can, we are able to, in the neurons of our brains, able to cross sort of culturally cultivate.
True. Yeah, no, that's true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a result of which, therefore, whether I'm doing, I remember Amir Khan coming for the Mahurat shot of Neerja, and Sonam said, Amir, Ram is making an experimental film. And Amir said, no. He's making a commercial film in an experimental way. And again, it's a great way to straddle the two things that we're all exposed to, which is how do you make it commercial, but how do you yet make it experimental? And so that's really, and those things are what I'm interested in. There was a very important filmmaker who came to me after an award show, and he said, Ram, I saw Neerja with myself first, then I saw it with my daughter, then I saw it with my family. And I just want to let you know one thing. Please make films and continue making films for the family audience. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important for me, which is I want to reach out. I want to get 4-quadrant. I want to get young, old, male, female. I want to get Indian, international. But like I read in New York just now when I was there, for the Emmys, which was a big thing. But I was in a pizza place, and I'm going to paraphrase it and then I'll change it. It said, you can't make everyone happy, you're not pizza. Which I'm going to change to, you can't make everyone happy, you're not ice cream.
Yes.
So, but
so
I would like to make everybody who watches my work watch it, and actually everybody like it for everything.
No, but it's true. But it's very difficult to do though, Ram. I mean, honestly, like even with Aarya, it's such a, I feel so emotionally invested. I mean, I binge watched it from what, 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. I stayed up that long to just binge watch it. So that's how powerful your content is. So I just wanted to kind of
and taking credit for a lot of the work that a lot of the team does, my co-directors, my writers, my EPs, my producer. There's too many people out there who sort of, as we know that everybody thinks it's like this. I do make films by committee. I like my team.
Yes. That's how it should be, though. It's a team effort, right? At the end of the day, filmmaking is never really a singular process. No, it's very true. But I think on a final note, Ram, your next series I'm really looking forward to that one as well, actually, because it's based on the Jallianwalla Bagh Massacre Commission.
Yes.
And obviously, as you know, I mean, Sardar Udham recently covered it, and it was extremely, extremely heartbreaking, and it gave me goosebumps just to even watch that sequence. But this incident, even now when we address it, it still is very sensitive today. And addressing the ordeal, it really does stir a range of emotions as well within us. So I think, how will you ensure historical accuracy and perhaps sensitivity when helming this series as well?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen Sardar Udham Singh. I will see it. And what we are making is something which is based on the Hunter Commission, which was also called the Punjab Disorders Committee, which was the commission that was made to investigate the Jallianwalla Bagh and what happened and what happened in Punjab. So therefore, our series right now looks at pre-Jallianwalla and Jallianwalla Bagh and the massacre and the post of it. And it's in a way like a court case. Now, we've done a lot of research, we've done a lot of reading, but ours is a fictional show. It'll have fictional characters, though it is about a real incident. And I'm very, very, because I've done Nirja, the responsibility of the memory of what happened, I was able to, sort of navigate and be responsible to what happened in our history. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to have that responsibility again and make it work in a sensitive kind of way. We're calling it The Waking of a Nation. And that's really what happened was about the waking of a nation. And so that's really where we are. We're writing it currently. So I'll know by very soon. There is a channel that is interested, but I'll know very soon whether it's working out, what's happening. So I hope that by the time we next do our session, I will be on course. But you never know. The universe has to be on our side, and it's a miracle when anything happens. So I'm praying to God that it all works out.
Definitely, I'm sure it will. It always does. But I know it's very, very initial stages and very nascent stages at the moment. But because I mentioned how you always choose actors who we least expect to sort of perform high octane emotions and intense emotions, have you got anyone in mind? Is there anyone in particular that you'd like to work with?
No.
Or in future projects?
No, I have to say right now, nobody in mind. I want to just finish the writing first. But that period of, I'm sorry, I wish I could tell you, but it's something which also I don't want to put out in the universe and then discover that it didn't work out, and then that gets sensitive, and then everybody says, but you wanted this person, and that didn't. So I'd rather just not get into that kind of a sort of digging my own corner into that. But I did a short film called This Bloody Line, which was on Sir Cyril Ratcliffe.
Okay.
And it's an 8-minute or 9-minute short film. I'm interested in colonialism. I'm interested in racism. I'm interested in prejudice. And so that's really, I'm interested in that part of what happened to us as a nation. And so that's really why I'm, sort of started to work on The Waking of a Nation.
Oh, very important. Trust me, you'll be very surprised. Even as an NRI in Britain, it's still, the colonial hangover is still so rampant and prevalent. I mean, for crying out loud, we have to watch Lagan to learn about the British Empire in history lessons. I mean, that's
Right.
that's how much lack of awareness and lack of education is there. So I'm really glad that you're making this series, and I'm sure you're going to do a fab job. As it is, Arya's back with guns blazing on Disney Plus Hotstar, and Dhamaka has.
No, it's getting great buzz. I've been calling. Everybody's been calling. I've been calling everybody saying we landed it. We landed it. The team is thrilled. We are so happy with the love and the way it's been received. Hotstar has been calling, and everybody's Disney Plus Hotstar. Everybody's happy.
Please, jald se jald Aarya 3 bana do. I cannot wait this long. I really can't. I need to see what happens now in the next stages where, you know, and I like the fact that she's become more confident now and she's become a proper badass now. It's quite nice.
Now she's coming to her own. We took a long time, but by the time you get to episode 7 and 8, you realize that now she has no option.
She's got her panjas out, literally. Literally. No, it's amazing. But look, Ram, I mean, it's been an absolute dream to speak with you. I mean, I remember watching your film Nirja, and I was a very fresh journalist at that point, and I was like, you know what, I need to interview this director at some point. And
no, thank you so much for making this happen and for the time and energy. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm wishing you all the very best, Ram.
Thank you so much. Bye, Anuj.
Bye-bye. Bye.